It's no secret that I'm not exactly a fan of codes of conduct. It's not that I'm opposed to people having rules. I like rules. I have rules myself. But most codes of conduct in most open source and computer organizations seem to be custom built to hurt people, right? Like we've seen so many examples where codes of conduct are weaponized in order to force huge groups, huge demographic groups out of organizations, whether it's companies or software foundations or even just smaller projects. They tend to be used to hurt people, to silence people, to censor, ban, and ostracize people, usually for offenses that are just simply very, very mild political disagreements outside of the project. I mean, we're seeing that with the Godot project, with GNOME, with Python, and on and on and on. Project after project, they implement these codes of conduct and they weaponize them to hurt people, right? And so I think me, like so many of you, as soon as we see the word code of conduct, we immediately think, I don't want to be a part of that, right? I'm out. I don't want it. I don't want any of it. I immediately have a knee-jerk gut reaction that whatever's going on, I hate it, right? If it says code of conduct, COC, I hate it. Now, I've published my own codes of conduct in the past that are very simple declarations of things like be excellent to each other and whatnot, as sort of a reaction to all the bad codes of conduct out there. Well, I saw a post today from the Ladybird Web Browser project that said the following: the Ladybird project has adopted a code of conduct derived from the Ruby Community Conduct Guideline. Huh. Now, I'm interested in the Ladybird Web Browser project because I love the idea of a from-scratch web browser and web browser engine that is built without all of that legacy baggage and is built by an organization that's not focused on political activism and the like, right? I think that's a good thing. A web browser that everyone, regardless of their politics or their religion or the country they live in, they can use, and they don't have to worry about it being, where revenue derived from it is being used for political activism that may in fact hurt them, right? Which is we see a great deal with Mozilla and Firefox. So as soon as I saw that Ladybird had a code of conduct now, I thought, oh darn, that thing's done. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to click the link. Let's go look at it. It's not that bad. It's actually pretty reasonable. I'm going to read the whole thing to you because it's just 4 friggin' bullet points. The Ladybird Code of Conduct is derived from the Ruby Community Conduct Guideline. Bullet point number 1, participants will be tolerant of opposing views. Oh, okay, that's fine. I mean, if we're in a software project anyway, and we just don't like each other's political views outside the project, we just won't talk about them. We can be adults like that. Remember when you used to go to work and the old adage of, you don't bring politics or religion to work. You just leave them at home. And, and if you're friends with some of your coworkers and they happen to know your politics or religion, well, that's fine. And if everyone has talked about it somehow and you really have great relationships, sure, it can be talked about from time to time. But by and large, if you're not sure that it's going to go over well, you just leave the politics and religion on. Remember when that was a thing? Well, okay. Participants will be tolerant of opposing views. Done. Bullet points number 2. Participants must ensure that their language and actions are free of personal attacks and disparaging personal remarks. Okay. That's fine. I mean, that's the thing. Is as long as we're not policing what people say outside of the project, which this doesn't seem to be, then it's fine. When you're inside of a project, yeah, don't say things where you're personally attacking and disparaging each other. Okay, I'm fine with that. Number 3, when interpreting the words and actions of others, participants should always assume good intentions. Okay. Just assume the best. Assume whatever. Like if I go in and someone is a trans dude lady guy thing, and I say, "What's up, dude?" And I don't know if it's a dude or not a dude, dude-ish or dude-like, or is like a quantum qubit state where they're half dude and half, I don't know. I just say, hey, what's up, dude? And I say he as a pronoun for him, right? That dude or not dude or whatever doesn't get all upset, right? Assumes good intentions, right? You just assume good intentions with each other. That's fine. Just assume good intentions, right? Because the reality is, if we all go around assuming bad intentions all the time, we're never going to stop yelling at each other. And this is what you see in all these code of conduct destructive communities out there, where they use the code of conduct as a weapon, and then groups of people go in and say, oh, that person used the wrong pronoun, therefore they're a Nazi and they're literally committing genocide on me. Well, like, whoa. Okay. They might have just been like a little confused and, like, I don't know, just said, hey, dude, right? Like, there doesn't have to be negative intentions behind everything, right? And I like this as a statement. Always assume good intentions. All right. And the fourth bullet point, behavior that can be reasonably considered harassment will not be tolerated. And what I like about that here is this: reasonably considered harassment. Now, that final bullet point, it could be waffly used a bunch of ways. Now, the reason I've said some of the things I've said in this video so far is some people would say that the words that I have said in this episode could reasonably considered harassment, because I have said things where, like, about, trans people, right? So if I'm talking about whatever, hey dude, pronoun, I don't know, they could consider that harassment. In fact, I've said similar things and have people declare that that was genocide and I was literally murdering millions of people because I said that, right? So they considered that harassment, but reasonably considered harassment. You can't reasonably consider anything I've said in this video harassment. If you were a reasonable person, you would not consider it harassment. But if you were an unreasonable person, you would. So now the thing here is, the people that are enforcing this, right? Enforcing this code of conduct, who they are and how reasonable they are will then inform how this goes. But here's the reason I like this code of conduct, even that last line, because the reality is, if you have people enforcing a set of rules, or even just say moderating a community, and they are not reasonable human beings, and they are the kind of people who would say you used the wrong pronoun, therefore you were a genocidal maniac and you're murdering 1,000 people right now, that's not a reasonable person. But if they're that kind of person, it doesn't matter what the code of conduct is, what the rules are, that whatever rules exist, no matter how well crafted, are going to be used against people, right? That's going to happen if you have unreasonable people like that. Now, from what I've seen of the Ladybird project, they're just very reasonable people that are very focused on code. I've had conversations with the lead developer behind the Ladybird browser project. And yeah, he won't get drug into political stuff. He just is going to stay out of it. He's been on my show before. We've chatted behind the scenes. He stays focused on the software. I can say, honestly, I don't know what his politics are. I don't know. And I love that. Right? Like, he knows what my politics are. You can probably discern what some of my politics are. I have no clue what his are. Now, sure, there have been many groups of leftists that have attacked him, but I think they've only attacked him in the past, just some months back. Some of them attacked him, claiming that because his source control repository used the word master branch, that he was an advocate for human slavery. like they attack him a bit, right? But I think they only attacked him because he stays out of the politics for the most part. Like, I don't know what he thinks. And in that ambiguity, someone like me sees that and thinks, okay, great, he's focusing on the software. I'm going to use this software. fantastic. I don't care what his politics are. He's staying out of it, right? Whereas the folks who would be more likely to weaponize a code of conduct, the unreasonable folks, they're going to attack him because of that ambiguity. Because for them, you can only be a good person if you are publicly on their team, advocating for exactly what they want and agreeing with them 100% of the time. The moment you deviate from that, you're evil and must be attacked. And those are the unreasonable people. Now, those people, if you get them in charge, whether they're a community moderator or the top of a project or just somewhere sitting on a board, the moment that happens, it does not matter what the code of conduct is. Everything's going to go to hell. It's just going to happen. And we've seen it time and time again. I mean, how many stories have I covered of that just over the last, say, 6 months to a year? There's been so many stories. The Godot game engine being one of the most recent examples. But as soon as you get an unreasonable person in there, it's over. The good news is Ladybird seems extremely reasonable. And the code of conduct that they've stated is also incredibly reasonable. And it is cemented. The cornerstone of it is reasonable people being reasonable, being cool with people, and assuming good behaviors, right? And trying to not be jerks to each other. Great. More of that, please. Now, this is all based on the Ruby Community Conduct Guideline, which has a few additional words to it, but essentially the same bullet points, right? And it just applies to all the community channels that Ruby runs. I'm like, oh, okay, great. You know what? And I'm not part of the Ruby community, right? The Ruby as a language never really interested me all that much. It's not bad. It's not great. It just hasn't been a thing that interested me all that much. I've never done the Ruby on Rails thing. It's just like, okay, whatever. That's not something I need. But if they have reasonable people going ahead and doing the enforcement of this code of conduct, well, then I think you're good to go. I think at that point you're good to go. I would be hard pressed to figure out a code of conduct that could truly save a project if unreasonable, crazy people get into positions of moderation and code of conduct enforcement and rule and decision making. I mean, because once that unreasonable point of view gets a foothold, it's over. It's over for everyone, right? Like we're seeing the Godot engine crumble apart. We're seeing significant problems having with Python and GNOME and so many Linux distributions and OpenSUSE, and it's all over the place. But this code of conduct I like. This I like. I could quibble about a few things. Might I change a few things if I were to implement it myself? Yeah, probably. Do I think it could be shorter? Yeah. Do I think I could add a few things? Yeah, but you know what? This ain't bad. As far as codes of conduct go, this ain't bad. Just make sure that if you use this, and this goes to the Ladybird project, to Ruby, and anyone else using this, you keep unreasonable people out of your decision-making and moderation process. Otherwise, that final bullet point, behavior that can reasonably be considered harassment will not be tolerated, will be abused because you have an unreasonable person. That is the key. And with that, go to lunduke.com, lunduke.locals.com. Clicky all over the place. It's fantastic. You love subscribing very much. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes across the inner tubes, I'm going to hear about this episode. End broadcast.